Hi everyone! Finally, I am tackling the last palette in Legendary Diversa, which is the Hummingbird palette. Now this definitely was the most intimidating for me, which is why you see I put it off last. Colors definitely can be very difficult for me to work with, and especially when I have episodes where I'm not feeling well, it can be really hard for me to just feel the inspiration, have the energy to be able to work with such a challenging palette. But I think I did okay. I tried to make each look completely dissimilar from the other two so that you guys could really see the variety that you can create with this palette. So for this first look, I focused on a warmer, fiery look, and then I added in some green at the end for the contrast and for the color. This is definitely a very beautiful palette. I would say my biggest criticism of it is that the two mattes, the burgundy and then the desaturated plum, I don't really feel like they belong. It's very difficult for me to use those. I definitely think I personally would have rather seen different mattes. Now what the replacements would be, I'm really not sure. I'm not an eyeshadow palette curator, but personally for me, I found it very difficult to try and place these two mattes. So as you can see in these looks, I actually didn't even end up using the desaturated plum at all because I just didn't know where to put it. That being said, as you can see, the shimmers in this palette are absolutely gorgeous. I will go over the formula of some of them that kind of stood out to me, whether in a good or a bad way, but for this look, everything honestly performed solid. I had a really great time with this first look. As you can see, it also was very easy and fast for me to create, and the end result looks really great. She chewed on my sweater. I'm not so sure why she wanted to do that. My sweater's fine, but I just did some mascara and I paired it with a warm lip, and that's it. This is a really great look. Love how it turned out. The second look was the most challenging. I have a love-hate relationship with blues, and I really needed to make sure I can put these blues together somehow, so for this look I'm focusing on the blues. This pastel grayish blue, so it's a very desaturated pastel blue with a lot of gray in it. I actually really like this shade, and I don't have a single blue like this in my entire collection. I felt like if I ever use blue eyeshadow in the future, I could come back to this palette and use this pastel blue to start building the look. This blue shimmer as well, it's got a lot of green in it, so it's more of a blue-green. It's definitely gonna make for a warmer blue, and this is the kind of blue that shows up the best on my skin tone. I find a lot of blues look like very bruisey on me, but this one, as you can see, it's so shimmering, so clear, and yeah, it's just really pretty. This dark blue that I'm using as eyeliner is actually more of a satin, and I think it's one of the prettiest satin eyeshadows I have run across in a very long time. It's not as punchy as a true shimmer, but it's definitely not a matte, but I thought it was really pretty. Now it does pull lighter on my eyelid than it does look in the pan. I couldn't build it up to that max intensity that you see in the pan, but I still think it looks really, really pretty, and surprisingly, I had no fallout working with this shade, so I thought that was really great. Definitely a sleeper hit for me. I was very surprised by that eyeshadow, and I'm looking forward to using it more extensively in the future. And then lastly, I thought just for a little bit of dimension, I would put this purple shade on top, just right in the middle. This is actually a very multi-chrome-esque shade. I'm not so sure if I could call it a true multi-chrome or not, but it definitely has a gorgeous shift, reminds me of a Cleo Nut or a Terra Moon's shadow, and it just adds some nice dimension. I did go back in and take again that light pastel blue, and I took it around the outer corner of my lower lash line, almost extending to my blush, and I had very cool tone blush, very cool tone lip, definitely kind of creates a more icy feel, and that's how I ended up finishing up this look, along with some mascara. I'm actually surprised at how good this turned out, given how difficult it is for me to use blue. So yeah, enjoying it so far. Lastly, this look is going to be kind of more intense and smoky. I wanted to use this tropical matte and pair it with the purple metallics in this palette. So I'm going to be using this matte just kind of on the upper part of my eyelid, and this is going to be what the shimmers are going to kind of blend into. And that's kind of going to be how I'm creating this look, was my thought when I was going into it. It's really pretty, blends out really well. You can see I have no problem using these mattes. I love them. Now this shimmer here, which is called Hummingbird, has a beautiful shift to it, kind of duochrome, but it's very, very chunky. And you can kind of see in the outer corner, it has difficulty adhering well to my eyelid. Now, I didn't put on any eye primer today. I just got lazy and didn't use it, so I suspect a nice tacky eye primer or something like the Pat McGrath wand would definitely help this stick and look way better. This is very chunky. I did get a significant amount of fallout, and throughout the course of the day wearing this, I had a lot more fallout. And I also felt like this shade was almost translucent with a lack of base pigment, because you can see when I'm putting it in the outer corner, it barely shows up. So it's a finicky shade. It has a really pretty finish, but it's very finicky to work with. This blue shimmer, on the other hand, is much more of that traditional creamy metallic shimmer, very smooth, very beautiful, and I feel like it added just a wonderful touch to this look overall. But that Hummingbird shade, I think, is the most challenging to work with in that palette, and I'm not so sure if I really like it or not, but I suspect with like a proper glitter glue or something, it would look fine. And then I'm just going to pop that pink in the inner corner of my lower lash line. And then I'm taking the blue shimmer and I'm just going to connect the pink and the purple together with the blue shimmer. And lastly, I do want to take this multi-chrome shade again and use this on the inner corner and also kind of on the inner-ish corner of my lower lash line, just for that added dimension and pop of brightness. Otherwise, this look so far is pretty intense, so I thought this just would add a nice spot of light to my inner corners to just kind of help create some contrast and dimension. And you can see the finished look is really, really pretty for sure, but the purple shade just looks a hair messy. I did put on some false lashes. I'm wearing Cloud 9 from Doe, and I just kept the rest of the face pretty simple. I used very cool cold berry pinks to match with the matte pink eyeshadow, and I think overall this is really pretty. I think this palette is a lot of fun if you're very adventurous and enjoy the challenge. So that's kind of my final thoughts on it. Thought it was great. I would say it's my least favorite of the three, my most favorite being the Wolves palette, but overall I love this collection.